Food and Wine is making its triumphant return to Kings Island for the 2025 season. Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans, because that's who we are, and that's who we care about.
Hey, let's kick this off by thanking our Prestige members. Thank you so much, Miss Mandy, 1983, Lil Mac, 21, Brian Hauser, 330T, Logan Lipper, Aaron Bort, Jacob Fix, Damon Barnes, Stephen Horneck, Eric Grau, Ian Crawford, Dustin Jackson, Songstress Miku, Dakota Cole, and Lacray. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the Prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the videos, exclusive content, exclusive live streams, and some tiers even get some free stuff. So hit that link in the description.
So, Ryan, it's that time of the year. Kings Island's Food and Wine Festival. It's back. It begins this weekend, Friday through Sunday at Kings Island, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. It's part of their Summerbration lineup. It's bringing upscale flavors and laid-back vibes to the park.
Can you see the excitement in my face?
I can see the excitement. I know you've been counting down the days. I know you were enamored with it last year, thought it was the thing to do. But no, actually, it's nice that they're bringing this back. I think, sometimes they would have a tendency to stick their foot in the water, try something once, and then, move on to something else, never really giving anything a chance to develop. I'm glad this is coming back a second year because they are giving it a chance to develop.
I feel like we're going to see what this event is going to end up being this year because although the event, in my opinion, and, just from observation, was not very successful last year, what they actually put on was fantastic. They had entertainment in several areas of the park. Tower Gardens looked amazing. I wonder how much of that is going to transition into 2025.
The thing about it last year was there just wasn't a lot of awareness for it. So it was something that you stumbled upon. So maybe it was that added value, hey, what's this? You go check it out. But it's in one, part of the park. It's not immersive, not spread throughout the park like you see other parks do with their Food and Wine Festival. So it's a little bit harder to find. But, for Kings Island, it's got those international wines to curated dishes crafted by the chefs. So it does deliver on that level. Theme park foodies. Some of those does it deliver on the level that the foodies expect? Do you think?
No. Here's an image of the charcuterie where you and I think Brad.
I got that.
You tried that, you liked it, but even in terms of like a charcuterie, especially like charcuterie is all about presentation. This is not that. And also it's not a lot of food for being what they charge for it. This is what I tried, the bread basket or the bread bowl or whatever. This was terrible. I would not recommend this. But I wanted to try all of it, but I ate this first because it looked good. And then I was just so disheartened by it that I didn't go back. But with that being said,
not a deep lineup. Not a lot of choices for you.
Yeah, in the charcuterie, it does look good. They also have it in the French corner too. So if you like it, that's a good option there. I think they have charcuterie for two, or at least they did in the past. But you got to visit Busch Gardens Williamsburg during their Food and Wine. How would you compare and contrast? Like, where does Kings Island like come up against the Busch Gardens Williamsburg version?
Yeah, I just published a piece about it on my blog, Theme Parks by Don. And there is no comparison. Basically the comparison would be saying, let's compare Ferry 325 to the Great Pumpkin Coaster. That's really the difference between the two. Busch Gardens, very immersive. From the moment you walk in the park that there's something going on, with the Food and Wine Festival. Throughout the different countries, throughout the park, everybody had something, so there, whether it was the specialty drinks, the food, some of the treats in that, it was very well done. You're immersed into the experience. Each different land that you went to, you would smell the foods and the sample. I got one of the it was like the tasting card. You get 10 different tastes. It was part of the American Coaster Enthusiast Spring Conference was there. So, we all received one of those cards to try the different foods and the drinks and that. and the food was really good. I mean, really good. And the portion size, was pretty good. So very, very impressed with it. I thought it was, well done, and everybody taking part seemed to really enjoy the event. Whereas Kings Island, it's tucked into the Tower Gardens area. Now they've got that new area they're building, behind by the carousel there. So
Mhm.
what that looks like, what's going on in there, we don't know yet. Um, but it's just, unless you know it's there, you didn't know it was there at Kings Island. You could not help but know it was there at Busch Gardens. Now they've been doing this for years. It's something that's an annual event for them. It's very successful. But I was, thoroughly impressed. And, then, you look at what Kings Island does, they're trying, but it's just a small little part of the park where you come across it. And at the level that they promoted it last year, most of the guests going to the park had no idea that was happening, until they would stumbled across that, if they were looking to get into Tower Gardens.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said if you spend money on something in the park and people walk in the door and they're like, "Oh, look, that's going on," then you've failed. You've wasted that money because you want people to come because they either heard the name Kings Island because they're advertising Food and Wine or came because of Food and Wine.
Right.
But if you come and they're like, "Oh, let's ride the racer, let's ride Diamondback and stuff," and you're like, "Oh, Food and Wine, cool, they're doing that." That's a huge failure. Huge failure.
Yeah. Now they did get some things right, last year. It looks like they're going to continue it this year. I mean, the wine list, it's pretty solid. Neither one of us, big wine people, but
I'll take your word for it.
but those that enjoy wine, they tell me that it's an impressive list. What they do have for that. Um, the those dishes, from the charcuterie to the chocolate raspberry, um, what is it, panna cotta, I think is what they call it. That was those were pretty good. Just not that deep. Like I said, Busch Gardens, they had over like 180 different tastes, around the park. Where here you got just a small, handful of things that you can try. But what they did have, seemed to be pretty good. Um, Tower Gardens, I thought last year was a nice like chill escape.
It's
Kind of a
beautiful.
kind of an area for for those that wanted to sip the wines. Or you're just strolling through the park. It was a nice place to come in and relax. You had those Cincinnati-based bands that came in to be part of the event last year. I thought that was nice. Um, so there was a lot of things. I mean, some things that they did well with it, but it's just not immersive enough compared to other food and wine festivals that you see throughout the industry with that. So I think, where it falls flat, you and I have covered this many, many times, compared to Busch Gardens, it feels more like a pop-up than a park-wide experience.
So, is it worth the sip?
Yeah, I think, at Busch, at Busch, I mean, that food and wine that touched nearly every corner of the park. You were immersed into those global villages that they have there. Those theme marketplaces. I mean, you knew you were part of an event, and that's not the feeling that you get there at Kings Island. The theming minimal at Kings Island, just relegated to that one small area. But at Busch Gardens, you're walking through Germany, Italy, Poland, Mexico, all those other countries as you taste it. Kings Island's more like Tower Gardens with a kiosk, to order your food and wine.
And chairs and tables.
Chairs and tables, yes.
They do decorate Tower Gardens nicely. Like I do want to give a shout
They
out to
do.
that. Like
They
let's
do.
give
I mean,
credit where
I mean,
credit's
the
due.
decoration was nice. It looked good. Last year it closed at 8, so you didn't really get any kind of a nighttime vibe with it. They had the lights and stuff strung up, but it was still light out when it ended. This year going to 9, it's still not going to be totally dark, but you'll get a little bit of that atmosphere there.
Yeah,
The Kings Island, when they do these different events and that, instead of being spread out, it all feels kind of clustered a lot of times, don't you think?
I agree. But I will say that the the way that it felt, and tell me if you disagree with this, but I felt like Food and Wine took place in Tower Gardens and it really branched out when it was near like the Fest House and all that stuff, which to me implies that it feels like a small scale event.
Yeah.
So like I feel like it's in Tower Gardens. Then you see that they have the band in front of the Fest House and stuff, and you're like, oh, cool, it's still here too. Like I think that says something about the scale of the event itself. But so it's not on the same plane
Right.
as like the Busch Garden stuff that
No.
takes up all the things. Plus, they've got the different areas of the world. We don't have that. I mean, we're not Epcot, but they do have the different countries. They kind of like how they do for Carnival. They could do, a Spanish wine, a French wine, a Swiss wine. So I'm assuming that's a thing. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of potential in the event. And again, we're going to see what the event ultimately is going to look like this year, because we're going to see what they think is a successful event based off of last year and what's going to be within the monetary confines of the 2025 Six Flags.
Last year it felt like they were just kind of testing the waters with it. So hopefully, they have expanded it and it continues to grow. Like I said, I'm excited they brought it back for a second year, because a lot of times that didn't happen. We've seen other events that were one and done that had potential, but they just moved off of it real quick and tried something else. So maybe this is going to be that one event that has long-term potential there. There is a lot of growth potential with it. I mean, let's not deny that. I mean, there's a lot of potential with an event like this if you do it right, and it becomes an annual event, and you make it more widespread around the park. Make it a big deal. You'll have success with it.
Yeah, cool. So Food and Wine to Kings Island. Visit kingsisland.com for the latest information on that. Let's move on to some Tower Topics tidbits for your information. Hey, before we get started, you can save some money on Holiday World tickets by going to holidayworld.com/save and use the promo code DON, DON. That's holidayworld.com/save, promo code DON. Don, what's our first Tower Topics tidbit?
Coaster stock, it returns this weekend. So if you're going, if you have a Tower Topics t-shirt, be sure to wear it on day one of the event and take part in the group photo of Tower Topics fans immediately following the attendee group photo. I think it's scheduled at like 4:00. Even if you're not participating in the event, but you have a Tower Topics t-shirt, you're going to be there on Friday, I'll get together at 4:00, take that photo. It's a good opportunity for fans of the show to introduce themselves to each other, build a little camaraderie, and that'll help make those meetups and things we do even more fun for you, because now you're going to get to reconnect with the friends that you made at the park by being a fan of Tower Topics. Brian, the Gazillion Bubble Show that opens on Saturday. It's a short run, only till July 6th, but I think you and I both enjoyed that show last year.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be the first to admit that I kind of jumped the gun. I saw a version of it at SeaWorld, didn't like it. I was telling everybody that, Kings Island made a big mistake, and then I saw it and I realized that I had made a big mistake. So go see it. It's really fun.
Yeah, appeals to guests of all ages. And then Trailblazers Extreme, that's going to open on June 21st. That'll be the final show that opens for the summer season. So at that point in time in the year, if you're a fan of entertainment, you got something going on in the Showplace Theater, something on the bandstand, something in the Fest House, something in the Kings Island Theater. So this is the time of year, mid-June to about mid-August, or beginning of August, mid-August. If you're a fan of Kings Island Entertainment, that's the time of year to go.
Okay. Let's move on to a segment we like to call Buy or Sell. Don, buy or sell? After much discussion and debate over the future of the Vortex land, Six Flags will put in a triple launch wing coaster that will be the longest and fastest in the world by 2028.
Well, that spot, it's been sitting vacant since 2019 after the Vortex was retired. I think by 2028, it'll be time to finally address that and put something in there. And I like this idea, so I'll buy it.
I like the idea too. I'd love to see a triple launch wing coaster. I don't see them spending that kind of money to make it the longest and fastest in the world, though. Remember, it's for Kings Island. Good enough is good enough for you right now. So
yeah, that part's a concern that they haven't really gone all out. We look at River Racers. That's an example. 530 feet long. But I don't know. Something about this buy and sell, made me say, okay, the Vortex spot. 2028 supposed to be when things really turn the corner for Six Flags. So that leads me to just say, I'll say buy.
Okay. I'm going to sell because I think it's too much of a moonshot, but I'm hoping you're right and I'm wrong. Don, let's move on to some theme park headline news. Knoebels Amusement Resort, which has taken home the Golden Ticket Award for the best food for 21 of the past 24 years, has introduced new food items, including achi bowls. I hope I said that right. The brain freeze slushy, German sushi, and a few weekly pizza specials. German sushi, which does not contain seafood, is built around fiesta dogs and sauerkraut and sold at the International Food Court. A new frozen confection called 40 Below Joe looks like a bowl of beads and comes in a coffee or fruit flavor. Cheesecake melts are a dessert based on stuffed French toast with strawberry or blueberry versions. A new stand will sell chicken and waffles on a stick. And this will be added after a trial run, which they had during their Halloween event last year. So good for Knoebels. Good food.
Good food. They do food well. They do food well, evident by the number of Golden Ticket Awards they've won, over the years. I am hoping to get to Knoebels this year. I really am.
I am too. I've never been there. I know I'm missing out. I heard they have the best flying scooters in the industry. So I want to check it out. Okay. We'll be right back with the listener questions. First listener question, Jim from Cincinnati, Ohio. He said, on May 17th, the park was very busy with guests, band, choir members, and company groups. And to everyone's surprise, in the late afternoon, Bengals player Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and other players in their entourage visited the park. Could you please provide information on how you handled appearances at Kings Island from local celebrities, such as the Bengals, the Reds, or musicians, and advise on the preparations you took while working in the PR role and social media management? And do you have them sign a waiver or something to use their name and likeness for in-park advertising?
Well, I mean, it really depended, I think, on who the celebrities and the athletes and that were coming in and what they wanted to do. Some of them never asked for any kind of escorts. I know, like Scarlett Johansson, visited the park and she just went around and just rode rides like anyone else. Some people noticed her in that, but she wasn't looking for security to get her front of the line access or anything like that. So sometimes you don't know when they're going to be there, but other times, they'll reach out or have one of their agent or somebody reach out and say they wanted to come to the park, and is there anything we can do to have somebody walk around with them, get them up on the rides. So at that point in time, I would let security know this is what we have, going on. Is there anybody can take them around? If not, sometimes that was me that took them around. But they normally started with, with me in the PR department to make those arrangements to get them in the park. We'd, bring them in, let them park in the administration lot and just walk them into the park. They didn't have to sign any kind of an agreement. And, sometimes they would post on their social media that while they were there. Sometimes they'd wait till after they left. They would always tell me, if you want to take a picture or anything like that of me on the ride and you want to use it on your channels, go ahead. So they were really good to work with, everyone that I did, as far as being the point person for that. There was the one band, Tommy Lee, when he was passing through town, he always wanted to stop at Kings Island, and he would only be there for about an hour. He wanted to ride the Beast, so we would just take him back to ride the Beast. He'd get on, he'd get off, then we'd take him back out, and he'd jump right back on the bus. He would always let us take a picture. We'd put it on social media, that he was there. There was one time, though, we asked him if we could have a favor, and the GM at the time was Greg Scheid, and he was attending a Warren County, Visitors Bureau, or the county commissioner. Well, it was a big meeting that he was in. So his office was vacant. So we thought it would be kind of a fun idea to put Tommy Lee in Greg's office and, have him with his feet kicked up, on Greg's desk and that. We took a picture of him. The marketing director, he sent it to Greg. And usually Greg was pretty quick to respond, but he didn't respond back. 10 minutes goes by, 20 minutes go by, hour and a half or whatever goes by. So they start getting a little worried that maybe Greg wasn't amused that, this guy was in his office. But then later, after the meeting broke up, and said, he said that when he glanced at his phone, when he saw the text, that he just, busted out laughing right in the middle of this real important, meeting because of the photo that we had sent him. He just couldn't respond at that time. But no, it was easy to work with them. They always, reached out, let us, know they were coming, and, we'd make whatever accommodations that they wanted. And a lot of times they didn't want that. They just wanted to blend in. Now, I don't know what the situation was with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and the other players, if they had an escort and was being taken around the park, or they just came in. I don't know. Obviously I wasn't there. But normally there was some organization to it, and, whatever they were interested in, whatever they needed, we made it happen.
Right. Steve from Mason, Ohio said, I'm hearing from the inside that Mike Kuntz is set to retire this summer. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on replacements. Do you think they should promote someone from inside the park? Any ideas who that could possibly be? Look outside the company, switch to a more regional model where it isn't an on-site GM, or maybe move someone from another park? Crossing fingers for a Jeff Siebert return.
Well, let's start at the end. I don't think you'll see that happen with Jeff Siebert. I think he's a Texas guy now. His entire family lives in Texas. His kids were pretty much raised there. Both parents and that are there from Jeff and his wife's side. So I don't think you'll see that. And he now is really involved with all the Texas parks. So I don't think you'll see that happen. I do think what will happen at Kings Island when the time comes for Mike to move on will be that they will go the route that they're now, we now see happening at other parks, that there will be someone that will not be named vice president and general manager. They'll be named park manager / there'll be a VP of a certain department. Maybe there'll be park manager / VP of finance, or, park manager / VP of food and beverage, VP of operations. It'll be something like that you see, because that's now the model that they seem to be going with. There is a regional general manager that they would report to. Right now, that regional general manager that Kings Island reports to, Mike Kuntz reports to, is Jason McClure. He used to be the general manager at Cedar Point and other parks. So there are, that seems to be what the model is going to be. Now, who would fit that internally, externally? I don't know, what their plans would be for that, but I think that's the model you're going to see happen.
Yeah, and I don't want to name any names, but there are 2 assistant general managers right now, which would probably be pretty good candidates to be the new park manager if they wanted to go that route.
Right. But yeah, I don't think you're going to see another person named VP / general manager. Yeah. It'll be the park manager model.
Alan from Mason, Ohio. I wonder if he knows Steve. Hi, guys. Love the show. My question, there are 2 different events at Kings Island that had many, many years ago, Banshee Brewfest and Backyard Barbecue. Any thoughts on why these went away? And do you think there is any chance they would ever be brought back? They seem very popular.
Yeah. Well, the Banshee Brewfest, I think that had a couple-year run. It seemed to be popular. I think the problem with that was they made it, they tried to make it a little too big. Too many different types of beers in that. And with the card and that you got, the drink card, the sample cards and that, nobody's going to try that many. So it's kind of hard for the person attending this event, those that go to those different craft beer events and that, made that known that, we needed to narrow down the list a lot. The other problem with it was if you went to the different booths to try the different crafts, they were pulling like Riot Associates and that from other departments to manage, that location. So, if you really wanted to know about the beers that you were sampling, it was somebody, working the scrambler trying to explain it to you. So from a credibility standpoint, that, it was kind of a miss there, but it did seem to be something that, people enjoyed. It just, one of those, we talk about it a number of times where, they stick their foot in the water, but don't jump in all the way and tweak it and just make it something that's going to be an annual event and just back year after year. And you just keep making it better. So that's what happened with that one. The barbecue event that they had, there was a time in the fest, I think it was like maybe Memorial Day weekend or Father's Day weekend or something. They did that event, very successful. So, I'd like to see something like that. Cedar Point did a barbecue event. It was an annual event for them. So I'd like to see something like that come back to the park. But right now, when you have the Food and Wine Festival, you have Grand Carnival, another food type of event, there's really not a fit for that during the summer months.
Now, I think you're right. I think they had the Father's Day backyard barbecue in the Fest House, but what they're probably talking about is the backyard barbecue that was in the Picnic Grove.
The Picnic Grove, yeah,
which was a victim of the meal plans. It didn't become viable to do that because they were targeting season pass holders with that. Because remember, it was like $25 normally, but 18 with the season pass.
Right.
So when they had the meal plan, it didn't make any sense. So 2013, I believe, was the last year of that. 2014, they got the meal plans, and they didn't bring it back. Very good question, though. Alan, hopefully they bring back that Banshee brew for you. If you've got your own questions for us, send them to Don. Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com. Your name, the city you're from, and your question will suffice. You prefer to do it on,
we'll use it.
You prefer to do it on X for some reason? Send a direct message. Tower_topics. While you're there, hit that follow. Don, tell them about the t-shirts.
Well, the first thing, keep those email and the Tower Topics X addresses in mind, because you're going to need those if you want a Tower Topics t-shirt. That's where we're going to send you the QR code to make your purchase. It comes in a what we call a wicked green color, whatever size you need. Even if you need something for one of your young children, we're able to get it used sizes as well. Again, just $22, includes your shipping. Once you let us know that you want a shirt, we'll send you the QR code. And once the transaction goes through, it's just a matter of days before you get your shirt.
Yeah. And vinyl stickers, Don.
We have those too. They're now
4.5 by 3. Yeah.
Yeah, they're perfect for your car, tumbler, the mug, water bottle, really any hard surface. 4.5 inch by 3 inch. Those are $5 each. That's what you want to put on like the tumblers, the water bottles. We have 6.5 by 4 inch. Those are $7 each. Those are great for your like car windows. Again, that includes shipping. If you want one, same address, either email me or just go to Tower_Topics and we'll send you that QR code and we'll get your stickers out to you.
Perfect. I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don Helbig. Remember to buy your Silver Pass. This is Tower Topics.